Ever feel like just one meditation app away from, true enlightenment?
Uh-huh.
Well, buckle up because today we're diving into something a little more, uh, shall we say, intricate.
Definitely not your average meditation app.
Soul Kernel 9. It's got this whole like evolution story
Right.
from Soul Kernel, like version 1.0, all the way to this version we're tackling today.
Yeah, it's like the creators were, beta testing their way to spiritual growth.
Constantly refining, building on those core ideas. So
Exactly.
no quick fixes here, huh?
Not exactly. This is about a very carefully crafted system, 9 interconnected elements.
Nine.
Each one plays a very specific role.
9 elements. We're building a cathedral here, not a meditation corner.
That's a good way to put it.
Where does this spiritual, like, architecture even begin?
With the foundation.
Okay.
I was going to have a good foundation, right?
Right.
And with Soul Kernel 9, that foundation is, well, pretty literal. Dantian.
Dantian. Okay, now isn't that an energy point from, like, martial arts?
You got it.
Okay.
It's that energy center, a couple inches below the navel.
Right.
Soul Kernel 9, they link it with pulse awareness. It's almost like you're syncing up with your own internal rhythm.
Okay, so grounding before we ascend.
Well, I like that.
I dig it. So what's the next level of this spiritual framework we're building here?
Adding in a visual,
Okay.
we're going to bring in the 6-pointed star. You might know it as a yantra in some traditions.
Okay, so like a geometric meditation aid.
Precisely. Visualize focusing on each point, tracing the lines where those triangles intersect.
Right.
And this represents the dance between, get this, involution and evolution, that journey of bringing your higher self into the physical.
Whoa, okay. We're
Huh.
going deep already. All right, so we've got our physical anchor, we've got our visual focus. What's next? Is there like interpretive dance involved?
Not quite.
Okay.
Although that could be interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to add another layer, sound. This time it's the 6-syllable mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum.
Okay, that one's vaguely familiar. Something to do with compassion.
Absolutely. Very potent mantra, often linked to Avalokiteshvara, the Buddhist embodiment of compassion.
Right.
Each syllable, here's the cool part, corresponds to a side of that 6-pointed star we were just talking about.
Oh, wow.
So it's weaving this whole practice together.
Talk about a multi-sensory experience. All right, so we're aligning the physical, the visual, now the auditory. What happens next?
This is where Soul Kernel 9 throws a bit of a curveball.
Okay.
Next element is called the atlas, and it involves placing your tongue on the roof of your mouth.
Act like I'm about to demonstrate my best frog impression.
Not quite as dramatic as all that.
Okay.
But the idea is to connect that Dantian energy all the way up to your head, create a flow throughout your body.
Oh, so it's like creating an energetic circuit. We're linking the physical and the spiritual?
You could say that,
Okay.
and that's where the next element comes into play, blending that internal experience with our external world.
Okay, now you've got me really intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay, imagine you're at the eye doctor, staring at that chart with letters getting smaller and smaller.
Oh, yeah, good times. Trying to remember if that squiggle is an E or an F.
Exactly. Well, in Soul Kernel 9, instead of deciphering letters, you're tracing the contours of objects with your vision,
Okay.
both in your surroundings and in your mind's eye.
Okay.
And they call this contouring.
So it's like taking that meditative focus and like integrating it into daily life?
Precisely.
Yeah.
You're finding that thread of awareness that connects it all. But it doesn't stop there.
Okay.
Imagine that 6-pointed star we talked about earlier.
Right.
But picture it horizontally now, like a hoop, and circling those contours you've been following.
Okay, I'm visualizing it. So it's like the star is like outlining everything, kind of setting a boundary almost.
That's the essence of the hoop and the tree.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that interplay between these forces, striving for balance.
We're talking about a concept that like pops up in cultures all over the world, right? The yin and yang, the sacred and the mundane.
It really highlights the universality of these core ideas, drawing upon ancient wisdom, but like forging a new path. But Soul Kernel 9 doesn't just leave you contemplating the external world. The next element, what the hoop is, this one takes us inward. It challenges us to examine the very nature of the observer, the who that's experiencing it all.
It sounds like we're about to get philosophical here,
A little bit.
questioning the very essence of me.
It's about recognizing that the self isn't static. It's an opening to infinity, constantly evolving. It's a bit like, you dive into a seemingly bottomless pool. You think you've reached the bottom, but then, surprise, there's a whole other layer to explore.
Talk about expanding your horizons. But with all this talk about infinity and, the ever-changing self, my mind's already starting to wander to more earthly matters.
Like what?
Like, what am I having for dinner?
And that's precisely where the next element of Soul Kernel 9 comes in. It's called, wait for it, thinking.
Hold on. They actually gave a name to, like, getting distracted. Isn't that, like, the opposite of what meditation is supposed to be about?
It's not about suppressing thoughts
Right.
or judging yourself for having them. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing thinking as, a natural part of the process.
Hmm.
By simply labeling it as thinking, you create this healthy distance.
Okay.
It's a way to observe those mental detours without getting, swept away by them.
So instead of getting frustrated with myself for thinking about dinner during meditation, I just kind of acknowledge it. Like, ah, yes, there's my mind off on its culinary adventures again.
Precisely. You notice the thought, you label it,
Right.
and then you gently guide your attention right back to the practice.
It's like that saying, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf.
I like that.
You're not trying to control your thoughts, but rather, navigate them a little more skillfully.
A very apt analogy. And what's intriguing is that this element, this awareness of thinking, it's not just one piece of the puzzle. It's woven throughout the entire practice of Soul Kernel 9.
Oh, interesting. So it's like the thread that connects all 9 elements.
Exactly. It's the meta-awareness, the constant companion on this journey of self-discovery.
Okay.
It's what allows you to engage with the Dantian, the yantra, the mantra, even those wandering thoughts, with a sense of detachment, of observation.
Okay. I can see how that would be, incredibly powerful. It's like instead of getting caught up in the like mechanics of each element, you're cultivating this deeper awareness that like permeates the entire practice. It's less about doing and more about being.
And that's where we can start to connect Soul Kernel 9 to a broader philosophical context.
Yeah.
Remember that one of the documents you shared mentioned the Bhagavad Gita.
Right, right. I was hoping we'd circle back to that. What's the connection there?
It's actually quite profound. The Bhagavad Gita is all about this idea of duality,
Okay.
being in the world but not of it.
Right.
Just like Arjuna had a duty to fulfill on the battlefield, yet remained detached from the outcome. Soul Kernel 9 encourages us to engage with life fully while simultaneously recognizing that deeper infinite self.
So it's not about like retreating from the world or trying to like transcend our human experience, but rather it's about changing our relationship to it.
You got it. It's about recognizing that our thoughts and perceptions, they shape our reality.
Right.
And through practices like Soul Kernel 9, we can potentially gain more conscious control over those internal processes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, but it also raises the question, what's the ultimate goal here? What is the creator of Soul Kernel 9 like ultimately aiming for with this, intricate system?
Based on what we've gathered from these documents, it seems to be about cultivating a heightened state of awareness, connecting with a deeper sense of self, and potentially even achieving a state of enlightenment or liberation.
Okay, those are some lofty goals. But is there any indication of like how to view this practice with all its elements and intricacies might actually lead to those outcomes?
That's where things get a little more, shall we say, nuanced. The documents don't offer like specific scientific evidence or step-by-step instructions. It's more about trusting the process, embarking on a journey of self-discovery.
So less of a roadmap, more of a compass.
Precisely. It's about using these 9 elements as guideposts, tools for exploration, rather than as rigid rules to be followed.
Okay, that makes sense. But with something as, complex and multi-layered as Soul Kernel 9, there must be challenges along the way, right?
Absolutely. One potential challenge could be the sheer commitment required. Incorporating 9 distinct elements into your daily life, that's no small feat. It would likely require a significant shift in mindset, in routine.
It's not exactly a 5 minutes a day, quick fix kind of thing, is it?
Not quite. And that brings up another potential challenge.
Yeah.
The risk of rigidity.
Rigidity.
Yeah. With any system that's so meticulously laid out, there's a danger of getting caught up in doing it right.
Right.
Striving for perfection instead of embracing the natural ebb and flow of our experience.
I see what you mean. You could get so focused on like perfectly positioning your tongue for the atlas or, meticulously contouring every object in your field of vision that you miss the bigger picture.
Exactly.
That feeling of presence and connection that the practice is supposed to cultivate.
It's like someone so focused on following a recipe to the letter that they forget to taste the food, enjoy the meal.
That's a great analogy. So it seems like finding that balance, between discipline and flexibility, between effort and surrender, would be key to making a practice like Soul Kernel 9 truly beneficial.
Couldn't agree more. It's about approaching the practice with a sense of curiosity, openness, allowing it to unfold organically rather than trying to, you know, force it into some predetermined mold.
It's like we often say on this show, sometimes the most profound discoveries happen when we're willing to get a little lost along the way.
Indeed. And speaking of getting lost, Soul Kernel 9 certainly presents us with, well, more questions than answers. It's true. We're kind of, swimming in them at this point.
Maybe those unanswered questions, maybe that's like part of the point.
Maybe so.
You know?
Yeah.
Instead of searching for that like definitive instruction manual, we're being invited to like embrace the mystery, the potential for ongoing discovery.
Ooh, I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So Soul Kernel 9, it's more like a starting point than a destination.
Ooh, I like that a lot. It's a launch pad for personal exploration. Because the true value of any practice, it's not about rigidly following the rules.
Yeah.
It's about how it empowers us, to live more fully, more consciously.
To connect with that, deeper sense of self that we keep like circling around.
Precisely. And who knows, maybe through that personal exploration, we might stumble upon answers that, even the creator of Soul Kernel 9 hadn't even considered.
Oh, wow. That's a good point. It's like we're all contributing to the evolution of this practice just by having this conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, and that brings us to the most fascinating aspect of all this. If our thoughts and perceptions, if they really do shape our reality, like these documents suggest.
Right.
If that's true,
Yeah.
then mastering a technique like Soul Kernel 9, one that allows us to, direct our attention, cultivate awareness.
Yeah. Could it be a pathway to like consciously shaping our experience of the world?
Imagine that.
Now that's a thought. Okay. It's like Soul Kernel 9 isn't just a set of instructions. It's a springboard into the unknown.
What if we have the potential not just to understand reality, but to actively participate in its creation?
Okay, mind officially blown. I think we need like a whole other deep dive to even begin to unpack that one.
I agree.
But for now, I think, we've given our listener plenty to ponder.
Indeed we have. It's
Yeah.
always a pleasure getting to explore these, fascinating ideas with you.
Likewise. And to our listener, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you in our, exploration of Soul Kernel 9? What questions are still like swirling around in your mind?
Remember, this is just the beginning of the journey. Take what resonates with you, leave the rest behind, and, most importantly, keep exploring.
Well said.